The rain began softly that evening, a steady rhythm tapping against the kitchen window as I stirred the pot on the stove. The smell of tomato and basil filled the house, one of those familiar scents that carried memories of years gone by. My sons were in the living room, their laughter spilling into the kitchen like sunlight through curtains. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. I glanced at the clock. Almost 7. My husband wouldn't be home for another hour, if he came home at all before midnight. His absence had become a part of our evenings, so constant it no longer startled me. There was a time I waited for the sound of his key at the door, for his voice calling out my name. Now, I simply filled his silence with the noise of living. "Mom, can we eat already?" My younger son's voice pulled me back. "Just a few minutes more," I smiled, even as my chest tightened. We sat together at the table, the three of us. The boys ate with that unguarded hunger only children have, and I watched them the way a lonely person watches firelight, wanting to be part of its warmth. The clink of their spoons, the sound of rain, the empty chair beside me, it was all part of a quiet symphony I had learned to live with. As we cleared the plates, my older son, 15, thoughtful, looked at me for a long moment. His voice was gentle, almost hesitant when he spoke. "Mom," he asked, "are you happy?" The words hung in the air like a fragile thread. I froze, dish in hand, heart stuttering. "Of course," I said automatically, my voice too light, too quick. But he didn't look convinced. His gaze lingered, as if he could see the cracks beneath my smile. That night, when they'd gone to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the rain. The question echoed in my mind, looping like a quiet melody I couldn't turn off. Am I happy? For the first time in years, I didn't know the answer. Sleep wouldn't come. I lay in bed listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of the house, the storm's fading whispers. My husband hadn't come home again, a message saying, "Late meeting, don't wait up." The silence beside me was heavy. I thought about my son's question, about the way he had looked at me. Kids see more than we think. Maybe he'd noticed how my laughter had grown quieter, how my smiles never quite reached my eyes. I remembered a time when I used to laugh easily. When my husband and I stayed up late watching movies, our fingers intertwined, our dreams unwritten but shared. The memory was like a photograph, edges fading, colors dulling, yet still precious. Back then, happiness wasn't something I questioned. It just was. It lived in little moments, morning coffee, hands brushing, promises whispered in the dark. Somewhere along the way, life had traded those things for bills, schedules, and polite silence. I sat up, restless. My reflection in the mirror startled me, tired eyes, faint lines, hair in loose waves. I wasn't unhappy with what I saw. I was just unrecognizable. "Are you happy?" That voice again, my son's, echoing inside my chest. The next evening, I tried to smile more at dinner, to make conversation. The boys noticed. They told me stories from school, and I found myself laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time in months. "Let's have a movie night, Mom," the younger one suggested, eyes bright. "Like we used to." I hesitated. My husband wouldn't join. He never did anymore. But the way my sons looked at me, expectant, loving, broke through something inside me. "All right," I said softly. "Movie night it is." As they cheered, I realized how long it had been since anyone had looked at me that way, with pure joy, without conditions. That night, I decided I wanted to feel alive again. Not for my husband, not even for my sons, but for me. The house was dim, warm, alive with laughter. The boys piled blankets on the couch, arguing over which movie to pick. Popcorn scent filled the air, and I felt something tender bloom inside me, something I'd almost forgotten. We sat close, wrapped in a cocoon of soft light and sound. The rain had stopped. The world outside was quiet. My younger son leaned his head against my shoulder, sighing contentedly. "I miss this," he murmured. "Me too," I whispered, though my voice trembled. As the movie played, I didn't watch the screen. I watched them, their faces illuminated by the flickering light, their smiles easy and unguarded. I felt warmth spread through me, but also guilt. How many moments like this had I let slip away, waiting for a man who was never really there anymore? My eyes stung. I blinked quickly, not wanting them to see. But then my older son turned to me, resting his hand on mine. "Mom," he said softly, "you don't have to be sad." That broke something open. I drew both of them close, wrapping my arms around their shoulders. For a long moment, we just stayed there. No words, no explanations. The movie played on, forgotten. I realized then that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes, it's not in grand gestures or whispered promises. Sometimes, it's in the steady heartbeat of two boys beside you, reminding you that you still matter, that you're still loved. When they fell asleep against me, the room felt sacred, quiet, safe, complete. I brushed a strand of hair from my younger son's forehead and smiled through the tears. Happiness wasn't something I needed to chase anymore. It was here, small, simple, but real. Morning came softly, sunlight stretching through the curtains. The boys were still asleep beside me on the couch, their breathing slow and even. For the first time in a long while, I felt rested, not because I'd slept well, but because something inside me had settled. I moved quietly to the kitchen, making breakfast. The house smelled of coffee and toast. When my husband's message buzzed on my phone, "Won't be home till late again," I didn't feel the usual ache. Just acceptance. I poured myself a cup and looked out the window. The world outside shimmered with the afterglow of rain, everything clean, renewed. Maybe I couldn't fix what had broken in my marriage. Maybe I didn't need to. What I could do was love what remained, my sons, my home, and the woman I still was beneath all the years. When the boys wandered in, sleepy-eyed, they hugged me from behind. "You're smiling," my younger one said. "I am," I answered. And I meant it. Later, as we ate together, I thought about that question again. Are you happy? I looked at them, at their messy hair, their easy laughter, the way sunlight danced across their faces. Yes, I whispered to myself. I think I'm finally learning how to be.